For the first time tonight, we get an inside look into what a Baton Rouge woman says was the true life of former local TV host Scott Rogers.
She secretly stumbled onto the story and put police on the trail of Rogers, who'd started his own church in Baton Rouge, a far cry from his secret, sickening life behind doors.
Well, good morning, sleepyheads.
The image of sunshines and smiles that TV host Scott Rogers projected on his Around Town show was what some say was his overly effusive effort to divert attention from what he was really doing.
He was smart and clever.
Clever enough, she says, to trick immigration and child services. Smart enough to go do something new and reinvent himself. Years before, a hung jury in England let Rogers, a performing arts school principal, avoid prison. He was charged with sexually assaulting a young student of his. In time, when Rogers resurfaced here in Baton Rouge, he was more than camera ready.
Now it's time to make your fun-do list.
I'm going to show you that I'm very benevolent in the community. But the truth is, I'm doing that to get access to children, or I'm doing that to win friends who can protect me.
Rannah Gray, who's written a book about Rogers, says his aligning with popular people here in Louisiana, allies of his, was something he'd learned. It's the very same script that helped Rogers beat his sex abuse rap in England.
He had 17 character witnesses at his trial, ministers, law enforcement, community leaders, teachers, parents of some of his students.
Gray was about to learn firsthand how Rogers allegedly preyed on children, the very students who thought he would make them famous.
Some news articles in London compared it to Fame, the program Fame. It was a school like that with promises of you're going to be a star.
Ethan says he survived abuse by Rogers at the academy. Now in his 30s, he searched online for Rogers for 13 years. Then he found an article that included Rogers' name in a letter to an editor from Rannah Gray. So he emailed her. That cracked the case wide open here in Louisiana. After talking at length to Ethan and gathering and verifying information, she went to a U.S. attorney with jaw-dropping allegations.
When you say to someone that someone is locked in a room for days and raped and choked and broken bones, you get the picture.
That's what Ethan says he endured. He feared and says he knew the horrors continued for others. In this picture of the school, Ethan says the window with the hole is the old office of Rogers, where he says Rogers first molested him.
The worst thing he did was steal the innocence of children.
Clinical psychologist Leslie Todd says Rogers groomed people to gain access to kids.
The polished molesters, the real child predators, are usually very intelligent, and it's not a hobby, it's a career.
Careers like that take money, and Rogers lived well, whether traveling or at home at his $500,000 St. Gabriel estate. Revenue likely not possible from his small local TV show.
How on earth did he live the lifestyle and support the people that he supported in the manner that he did it?
How he funded his activities is one of the biggest unanswered questions, I think, of the Scott Rogers story.
Gray says Rogers hinted at that answer to people at his church in his final days.
It's going to become known that I'm being investigated for my involvement in an international pedophile ring and child pornography and human trafficking.
He said that.
He said that.
He did travel extensively to Malaysia, known as one of the world's hotspots for child exploitation. Gray says Scott Rogers was planning another trip there and taking his two younger adopted kids. So what can we learn from this story?
If something doesn't feel right to you, just question it. If you ever believe that children are in danger, then you just have to do something.
Now, the man who killed Scott Rogers then took his own life, it's believed had been abused by Rogers for 20+ years, was his lover, was even his son-in-law. Why would Matthew Hodgson stay with Rogers? The author of the book says Rogers brainwashed victims into thinking life in the real world was more sinister than life with him. They at least knew
The Familiar Evil, the book title. Gray officially announces the book and it hits store shelves this Monday.